Welcome to episode 3 of Jayme's Journal. I'm Jayme, and on the last episode of the podcast, we talked about my journey so far, and I gave kind of a general overview on how I ended up signing on with Fireside Publishing for my debut novel. After that episode posted, I got feedback from some of you wanting to know more about some of the topics that I discussed, and so today I'm going to be focusing specifically on that. I got a question on Instagram wanting to know if writing is a natural gift for me and how academic writing affects my novel writing. So those two things are actually pretty closely tied together, I guess. But I'll talk first about natural talent. Do I have natural talent for writing? I would say no, absolutely not. Though I guess in some aspects, maybe a little bit. Because if you think about it, you have a natural ability to do most things that you do, or you wouldn't keep doing them, right? So for me, yes, I wrote more than 50,000 words in November of last month for my first novel. But that plot sucked and the characters were flat and I just didn't know how to fix it. But people gave me really good feedback about how the concept was a really good concept. And so I wanted to develop that further. I mean, I've read hundreds of books, but I had never actually written one. So I didn't know what I was doing or how to fix any of the problems that they were telling me I had. Well, in my day job, I'm actually an American Sign Language interpreter, and I interpret in the educational setting. Well, one day I was interpreting an English class, and I finished my day, and I'm driving home, and I'm sitting at the stoplight, and it smacked me in the face. Like, duh, Jayme, you need an outline. So far, I had been what we call in the writing world a pantser. And a pantser is somebody who just kind of flies by the seat of their pants. They let the story lead them, and they don't really necessarily have any idea of how the story is going to take shape. Well, I should have known better because I just finished years of college, and that means a lot of academic writing. And I should have known from that I actually am a plotter and I need an outline, but I didn't think about it before that. I had never written a book, remember? So, of course, my plot was not there and my character arc was not there. I needed to do it the way I had approached school. I mean, the one thing that I loved about school and academic writing was that there was a formula. I could sit down and I could go, okay, this is my intro paragraph. I need to lay out exactly what I'm going to talk about in this paragraph. You know, those intro paragraphs about like the trickle-down method, right? The trickle-down method has been touted as the best economic method in American history because blah, blah, blah. And you lay out exactly what you're going to say in your paper. And I did that hundreds of times in papers for different classes, and it always worked for me because I had a formula, I knew how it worked, and all I had to do was plug things in and connect the dots. So I did that. I went home, I outlined the book again, and I rewrote the entire book. Same concept, same premise, but I rewrote the entire book with an outline. And it flowed so much easier for me because I had that formula. All I had to do was put it in some bullet points and then connect the dots. And my plot suddenly was way more developed and my character arc was there. And was it great? No, absolutely not. There was still a lot that I needed to learn. But that's something that I've learned even in my day job as an interpreter is that requires deliberate practice. And if you have even an iota of natural talent to do something, then you want to keep doing it and you practice it and practice it and practice it and you get better at it. So that's what I did. I decided that I'm going to sit down and write this outline and plug it in and connect the dots, and it worked for me. But I do want to say that doesn't work for everybody, and every writer has their own formula. I mean, if you go online and you search for outlining a novel, you're going to find things like the 3-act structure, Save the Cat, The Hero's Journey, and countless other different ways to outline your novel because everybody has their own. But you're going to see that they mostly have the same elements. They're just not in the same format. And if you want to write a novel, you have to find what works for you. And maybe you're not an outliner. Maybe you're a pantser. Maybe you have a great idea for a novel and you're going to sit down and you're just going to start typing. And next thing you know, you're going to hit the end of your book and that's it. And that's that little bit of natural talent that you have. But for me, it was totally the opposite. I needed an outline. I needed to be able to use that same style that I used for my academic writing and plug things in and fill it out and connect those dots. And that worked for me. So then I had to figure out, what is my deliberate practice? How do I make myself better by doing this more and more and working on it and figuring out my method? So for me, that's reading. I already told you, I've read hundreds of books. And now that I decided I was going to write books, I figured I needed to read books about writing books because I didn't know how to do that. So I would say read what you write. For me, that's urban fantasy. I write urban fantasy, so I need to read urban fantasy because then you're going to see how other authors in your genre are laying things out. You're going to see that they usually have a pattern. Here is this, let's say you're writing romance and girl meets boy, girl meets girl, boy meets boy, whatever your idea is, your premise is, you're going to plug them into this formula and they're going to meet. They're going to have something that keeps them from continuing on their journey. They're going to have to overcome that and then they can be together. That's how it works, right? For romance, because in the end, you want those two to be together. So they're going to have to overcome whatever it is that's in their path. But you have to read what other authors are writing in order to see how they take you through that journey. And you're not going to copy them, but you're going to say, ooh, I really like the way that they threw that obstacle in their way. I'm going to do something similar to that. But my characters obviously are different people. So they're going to need their own specific type of obstacle. So read books that you're writing that same genre. And also read books about writing. I read Save the Cat by Jessica Brody, Story Genius by Lisa Cron, and actually my favorite one was Take Off Your Pants by Libby Hawker, because it was the first one that I read that actually laid out the whole idea about plotting versus pantsing, because when I was first starting out, I had no idea that there were different methods of writing, and that was really good for me to figure out and learn about. And I also, again, suggest going to conferences. Go to conferences, listen to other people talk about their process, because you're going to take bits and pieces of their process and you're going to incorporate it into your process and make it your own. Because, again, nobody writes the same. Everybody has their own way of doing things. And something might resonate with you that one person says that you can then take and use along with something another author does as well. And you're getting all of this information from these people who have had success. So you know that their methods are tried and true for them. And that means that some of those elements are also going to work for you. So definitely go to conferences if you can do that. And in-person conferences, I would think probably are more fun. Unfortunately, I haven't been to an in-person conference yet because, we're still in the middle of this whole pandemic thing. So the nice thing about doing online conferences lately is that you actually get more for your money, I feel like, in some cases. Because the Storymakers Conference, as it was this year, was completely online. So that meant that you had access to all of the content that they were offering. Whereas if you go to the conference in person, you get to pick and choose from a ton of different fantastic workshops, and you only get to do so many because obviously you can't be in more than one place at one time. So if you're thinking about doing conferences, especially now, this would be a good time to do it. Just look online for anything, writers' conferences near me or big writers' conferences, popular writers' conferences. Do searches, do some research, and figure out what is being offered at this time, because those conferences are usually happening at specific times during the year. And the last thing I would say is write. You have to write. If you have that even small amount of natural ability, then the only way to get better is by doing it. You can do all the research you want. You can outline it all you want. You can think about it and put all of that brain power into imagining your novel as a finished product. But until you sit down and actually write the novel, it's not going to happen and it's not going to get better. You have to have that practice. You have to work with the actual story structure and figure out how that structure works for you and your methodology, and plug things in and take things out and try new things and build your own to match your writing style. And then probably the hardest part of the whole thing, share your work. And it's scary, believe me, it is so scary. And especially the first thing you write, because it's like this piece of you, right? You put all this work and all this effort into it, and you love your characters and you love your story. And it's always that scary part where somebody else might not like it. And I'm going to tell you right now, there are going to be people that don't like your story. There just are. That's the way it works. You have to find the people that read your genre and make sure that you're getting feedback from them, because they're the experts in that genre, right? They're the ones that are reading it. They're the ones that know how those tropes work. And look up popular tropes in your genre. Make sure that you're following that kind of format and have a consistency in your writing, because then the people who are reading your books are going to give you really good feedback because you know more about what belongs in that genre. So yes, have people read your work. And even though it's scary, have some people who don't read your genre read your work, because you'll be surprised at the kind of feedback that they can give you. I've had people who typically only read horror or typically only read, sci-fi, high science fiction, where they make their own world and they have their own set of magic and they have their own cultures and those types of things. I have those people read my work too, because they give you valuable information. They're the ones that are going to spot the holes in your magic system. They're the ones that are going to say, this is not my genre, but I really enjoyed the concept of your story. I would read this again, or I would read more. And I would suggest it because while it's not my genre, I was still engaged in the story and it still hooked me. So absolutely scary, but totally, totally necessary. And it's a necessary part of that deliberate practice again. So natural talent for me, not a lot of natural talent, but academic writing really pushed me and helped me to develop my writing, especially for this whole novel idea, because it gave me that structure that I really needed, that structure that I craved, and it helped me to become a better writer. But you have to work at it. And that's where all of those things that I suggested are going to come in. So I hope that answers your questions, and I look forward to getting more questions from you. If you have any feedback or you want to know more about anything that I discuss, or you want to suggest something to discuss, then absolutely just reach out to me. You can contact me on my website, authorjaymephelps.com, on Facebook, Jayme Phelps Author, on Instagram, Jayme.Phelps_author, on Twitter @Jayme Phelps Author. You can hear these podcasts anywhere that you can find a podcast, including, but not limited to, my website, authorjaymephelps.com, Spotify, Amazon Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. I look forward to talking to you again soon on the next episode of Jayme's Journal.